Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving on to our today's first story. I live in a rural town where nothing ever seems to happen. I've been here for as long as I can remember, and things surely have shaken up since last year. I'm a farmer. I inherited my father's parcel and I've been taking care of it since then. I make business with small shops around town, small factories, and some restaurants too. By that time, I just managed to afford an average living. My income was moderate. I could see some of it by the end of the month in my savings account, but I couldn't afford many of the things I dreamed of. For instance, I love cars. They have always been my passion, and for a long time I dreamed of having a big SUV and taking long rides through the fields, but my income wouldn't allow me to do that then. Things took a sudden turn when some oil company drilled some fields close to my farm. They requested my approval and some of the neighboring landowners too, and got us into a nice settlement that let us receive a nice sum of money that helped me upgrade my life. I believe I was the only active landowner working his land in this area, and with the money I received, I got in touch with the rest of the landowners in the surrounding fields and managed to buy 2 of their parcels, thinking of it as a long-time investment. With the rest of the money, I went to the car dealership and bought a brand new 4Runner. The news spread around town. Suddenly, everybody knew I had made a bunch of quick money. Some people thought I hit the lotto or got lucky at a casino or something. Since it was a small town, rumors spread very fast. What I didn't know was that the news reached some evil-intentioned people that were just fixated on ruining my happiness. Just a week after I bought my brand new SUV, I woke up one morning realizing it had been stolen. I cursed everything. I didn't imagine that in our small town there would be that kind of criminal, so I didn't take any kind of special measures, and that worsened my remorse. I went to the police as soon as I could. I gave them all the details about my stolen car and they filled out a report. But something didn't feel quite right. Our police station is a small one. Almost everything runs by the will of the sheriff and his 4 sub-deputies. A sheriff is an old man doing his best to fulfill his role, but the sub-deputies lately have been known to incur cases of excessive use of force and abuse of power, but nevertheless we manage to live our lives as peacefully as we can. One of the deputies took the report on my stolen SUV, and in almost an annoyed manner, assured me they would do everything they could to find my car and the culprit. So my life was headed to remaining the same as usual. In the meanwhile, I began working hard again, earning my day-to-day income. A week went by with no news on my SUV. I called the police station from time to time to check if there were any updates, but they told me they were still working on the case and that there weren't any suspects or traces of the car anywhere. Then the next week, the news suddenly changed the lives of everyone in town. The government started the construction of several pipelines and a refinery plant close to town. Out of nowhere, the town started to get flooded by workers and engineers from all over the country and overseas. Within 2 months, a whole bunch of businesses and even a hotel were inaugurated and operative. Prices for the goods I sold on my farm went up, and the demand was so high and profitable that the plot of land I just bought suddenly became vital to keep up with the orders I was receiving. I hired more workers and my business was booming. In a month I managed to 5x my usual income. Within 3 months my savings were enough to invest in the real estate, so I did. My life went from that of a farmer making a living to a businessman with a capital B. When I saw all this overflow of money in my account, I remembered the SUV that I got stolen, and since there wasn't any news about that and I could afford to buy myself another one, I happily did. I went to the same car dealership and ordered another 4Runner, this time with an enhanced security system. I took it for a ride, went on a trip to a close-by tourist city, and had a great time. The weekend went by and I got home. I parked my car and went to bed. The next morning, while I was working, the SUV was gone again. I was furious. I couldn't believe this happened to me again. This time I was sure that someone was tracking my moves. I started making my assumptions and making a list of everyone that knew I had bought the car. No suspects came to mind. I couldn't think of anyone that I had told about my purchase both times that could have been involved in the robbery. I was so mad, and understandably, I started to get paranoid. I went to the police station and the deputies received me with the same long faces and little to no will to work on my case. This made me even angrier. I began shouting around the police station until some deputy had to escort me outside. I tend to be an emotional drinker. When something gets on my nerves and affects me deeply, I tend to drown my feelings in alcohol. That day I went straight from the police station to the bar I frequented on weekends. I got there and the usual customers noticed I was very upset. I asked the bartender to leave a scotch bottle on the counter and I began telling my story to my drinking buddies. They all agreed that lately, the police officers were as useless as they can be in a small town like this one. I felt supported, but that didn't soothe my anger. I was still fixated on finding those criminals that were stealing my cars. I finished the bottle, and in my anger, I decided that I would buy another SUV, but this time I wouldn't make the same mistake. I asked for 3 more bottles. I'm a pretty heavy drinker once I get started. I ordered 1 more for the boys that heard my story and went on my way. Even though I was a little intoxicated, I managed to keep my composure and pretend like I was sober once I got to the car dealership. I, once more, asked the owner to sell me another 4Runner, just like the last time. He was excited, and with a big smile, he helped me fill out all the paperwork. I stamped my partially shaky signature on the documents and went home with my 3 bottles of whiskey. When I got to my ranch, I parked the 4Runner in the usual spot, grabbed my rifle, and sat on my porch drinking and listening to some music. I kept drinking and drinking until 2 a.m. I hoped to catch the bastards that were stealing my cars red-handed and give them a lesson, but it seemed like no one was about to show up that day. In the middle of my drunkenness, I got an idea. If they were still willing to steal another car from me, I was going to make sure to make them regret it. I grabbed 1 bottle of whiskey I had lying around and removed the nozzle. I poured out half of the bottle and mixed the rest with some poison and fertilizer. I was sure that anyone who drank that would have a rough time, experiencing some hard shock and paralysis. My idea was to leave it inside the car. If anyone stole the car and saw the bottle lying there, they would be tempted to drink it. I placed the poisoned whiskey bottle in the front seat, and then went to my bedroom to practically pass out on my bed. The next day, at around noon, a phone call woke me up. One of my drinking buddies of the day before called me excited. "They found your car," he said. I had a bit of a hangover and all I managed to say was which one. He then described to me its color and license plate. I went, mad as hell, outside of my house and realized the car I had just bought got stolen too. That was the car they had found. I cursed but was excited to know the car had appeared. Then my friend told me they were all dead, and I said, "What? What do you mean?" He told me one friend we had in common was driving and saw this 4Runner on the side of the road with someone passed out on the wheel. He got down to help him and discovered he was dead along with 3 more other people that were inside the vehicle. He called the police and when they got there, they all were perplexed. 3 of the sheriff's deputies were inside of the car, dressed in civil clothes and deceased by poisoning. They just found an open whiskey bottle and when the sheriff smelled it, he instantly knew it was adulterated. I was perplexed. I had just managed to kill 4 people. I didn't know the mixture would kill them. I thought I had balanced the chemicals just to leave them paralyzed or something, but I guess since I was drunk, I didn't measure them right. The thing is, I didn't feel guilty at all. I was sort of relieved to know that such scum was finally off my tracks. Then the investigations began. The first thing I knew was that I had been sued for a homicide attempt. The 4th deputy that worked at the police station filed charges against me for killing his buddies. I had to spend a night in jail until I managed to pay bail and remain on house arrest until the trials took place. In the meantime, state police agents went to our town to keep the investigations going on how was it that 3 police officers were found inside a stolen car and ended up dead for drinking adulterated liquor. Their investigations concluded that the 4th person inside that car was one of the employees from the car dealership in which I had bought the 3 SUVs. It seemed like the deputies and this employee was associated to stealing cars and reselling them, and since all of it happened in a small town, they didn't expect to be found out anytime soon. In the midst of the investigations, the owner of the car dealership ended up in jail for reselling stolen cars in other agencies. His sentence was up to 18 years. Regarding my trial, since I still had to answer the law question as to why did I have an adulterated and potentially lethal whiskey bottle in my car, I found myself in the obligation to state that I was planning on killing myself. It was the perfect alibi. I discussed it with my lawyers before trial and they concluded it was the best way to get off the hook. As expected, they had no other choice than to leave me in liberty. I asked for a restraining order against the 4th deputy, stating that I felt my life was in danger due to him having a grudge against me, but in the end, it wasn't needed. The officers from the state concluded that he knew what was going on with his buddies even though he didn't take part in his criminal actions. They fired him from his police duties with a dishonoring discharge and sent him to jail in another state for a year or two. My businesses kept expanding and I got to fulfill my dream of collecting cars. I'm planning to buy a Jaguar this year for obvious reasons. I'll be doing it in a different car dealership agency. Now, here is the end of our first story, and I hope you guys are enjoying my content. So before moving to the final story, you can share your thought about those corrupt officers and the revenge OP took on them in the comments section. Also hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more revenge stories. Moving to our final story, which is a very satisfying malicious compliance. Cast. My manager, front desk manager, he only was here for 4 to 6 months at this point. I am a nice guy unless you are a bully or entitled person. And a few others I will mention as we go through. Backstory: I worked at this hotel for over 2 years and was one of 2 people left that went through the training when our hotel changed hotel franchises. During this training, we were told about certain rules the company had. Now story: one afternoon I was scheduled to work the second shift from 3 to 11. I walked in and both AM front desk co-workers looked like they had been massively crying as their makeup was smeared. My manager looked quite pissed. I asked, "What's wrong?" "Manager, we have a major jerk as a guest. This guy is at the highest level on the rewards for the hotel chain. He is very demanding and wants free upgrades, free this or that, and screams anytime he has an interaction with the staff. This guy has made every department call me complaining about him. Now, this guy just came to the desk and screamed at these 2 co-workers until they both were crying. These 2 ladies were fresh high school graduates and were very sweet and innocent people. They loved helping people and didn't deserve this treatment." As he is explaining this, I look up this guy's room details. Once my manager finishes explaining everything this guy had done, I see this guy's info. I had a smile from ear to ear. I reply, "Didn't you see he is an employee of a different hotel?" Manager: "Yes, but so what?" I replied, "First off, while you travel as an employee you are required to behave and be respectful. It is in the fine print on the discount form." I grabbed his form and showed it to the manager. Failure to be respectful can lead to having your employee discount suspended or permanently revoked, and even get you terminated. You need to call this guy's hotel and ask for the GM, then explain to him who you are and what this guy is doing. I look up the hotel phone number and call the hotel and then handed my manager the phone. The manager, after his call ends with the GM, has an evil and satisfying smile on his face. His GM is steaming mad after I described all the stuff this guy has done. Main switchboard phone rings. I answered, "Hello, thank you for calling the hotel name. How may I direct your call?" "Caller, I want to speak to entitled jerk's room, please," I replied. "Absolutely, sir, have a nice day." Transfer the call and looked at my manager and said with a sarcastic tone, "Someone wanted to talk to entitled jerk. I wonder who that could be." The manager continues after he stopped laughing. "The GM gave me his cell phone number and said if I have any more issues at all to call him immediately. I am leaving the phone number next to the switchboard. If you need it, call him." I told the manager, "Your revenge is done. Now for my revenge." Manager wide-eyed and said, "Oh crap, what are you going to do?" Me smiling a very evil smile and said, "You'll see." I pick up the phone to make a call. "Hello, Hotel Rewards customer service." "Yes, I would like to report someone using a reward account while using an employee discount on his stay." "Customer service, he can't do that." I replied, "I know, I am calling to report him." I gave her the guest reservation number and rewards member number. I continued, "I bet anything if you dig through this guy's history you will find all his stays are probably at employee discount." Customer service told me, "I am starting a ticket to have this guy's account investigated." I replied, "Thank you," then hang up the phone. The manager watched as I then removed his rewards number from his stay. My manager had a huge grin on his face that was awesome. I explained, "Oh, I am not quite finished with him yet. It is time to go spread the news to all departments. He is no longer a rewards member." I made a new key for his room without concierge access. I walked around every department. As I explained why I was stopping by, everyone had the same reaction as soon as I mentioned the guy's name. "Oh god, now what about this a hole?" I finished explaining how he was no longer a reward member and if he gives anyone issues to call the front desk immediately, and his GM already probably tore him a new one just a minute ago. Everyone was so happy at this news. I finally went to the concierge room and used the guest's new key to void his current key. Then I walked into the room and explained the information to the evening concierge. She cringed at the mention of his name, after explaining she would not have to deal with him again, and asked her to leave the morning person a note about this guy not being allowed in the concierge room anymore. She was very happy. While I was gone, the manager explained what we did to the 2 a.m. front desk ladies. The minute I got back to the desk, both my front desk co-workers all came up to me and gave me a huge hug and thanked me so many times. The manager to me after the other co-workers went home, "Do me a huge favor, please." I replied, "Sure, what's up?" "Manager, if I ever piss you off, please come tell me so I can fix the issue." Later that night, entitled jerk comes to the desk, hat in hand, politely saying his key doesn't work. I replied, "Oh, so sorry about that, let me make you a new key," in the best fake smile I can muster. Aftermath. Next day I check his rewards account and it is now suspended. Check back next week, sorry, account number not found. Now, here is the end of our today's video, and I hope you enjoyed this petty malicious compliance. Guys, I want to hear your thought about this story in the comments section, and if you had similar stories, please share it. I would love to read them. And before you leave, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to remain updated on more fantastic stories.